Dear brothers and sisters, as we were growing up, we were always presented with the concept of superheroes. Individuals that, come into our lives that can make miracles happen, if you will, that can make a great change within the community. A lot of times, you see them as, a crime-fighting superhero. We've seen them on, both males and females, and nowadays they come in all different ages, right? We have superheroes that are kids that actually come, help fight crime, help individuals, help people that need help, and whenever there is a change needed, those superheroes are there to help us and to help that community and to help that neighborhood. And when we think about the concept of superheroes and why we like superheroes, a lot of times we realize that it's something that we connect with. We can relate to those superheroes. We can relate to those individuals that want to make that change. I don't think any of us doesn't want to see something go wrong and not be able to step up and help. Whether it's someone who's needing help, a kid crying, a mother with kids in a dangerous situation, and we want to be the one that goes and make that change. Now, all of these characters are fictional, right? All of the superhero concepts, whether it's Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, all of these, 20, 30 plus list of superheroes, they're all fictional. Now, on the flip side, those superheroes do exist in real life. We just don't think about them as superheroes. And when we look at those individuals that had the most change or the most impact in our lives, a lot of times, or at least the first thought that should come to mind are the prophets and messengers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with them. And there are plenty of different examples. We can look at the example of the patience that Ayyub alayhi salam had. Now, as we know, Ayyub alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him everything that a man or a person can ask for. He had the wealth, he had the children, he had the job. Whatever it was, he just had it. He had a good wife. He had the perfect life, if you will. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to test him and then took everything away from him. But then Ayyub alayhi salam became patient. And in other words, he really didn't become patient at that point. Ayyub alayhi salam had always been patient, except that at this situation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increased the dosage of the trial and made it a little bit more difficult. But then Ayyub continued being patient. And this is an example that we look at when we all, go through these trials, these problems, when we either, go to the situation where someone loses a child or someone loses a spouse, or we lose our jobs, or we lose our wealth, or something that we lose. We have that tendency of wanting to become Ayyub alayhi salam, wanting to have the same amount of patience so we can pull through this trial. Yusuf alayhi salam was another great superhero that we never think about in terms of how much that person gave us to be able to start thinking about how can I be like him. Now, when we think of Yusuf alayhi salam, we think of, okay, so he was put in the well, he was taken out, he was traded in, was falsely imprisoned, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put him in a high status, in a high position where we had good control of the economy in that environment. The one thing that we usually miss in the story of Yusuf alayhi salam is that after he's reunited with his father and siblings, he opens the doors for them with an open heart. So his siblings, his older brothers, they took him in, they dumped him in a well. Imagine the situation where you are dumped in a well on your own as a teenager, and then a group of individuals pick you up, and then they sell you as a human slave, and then you are falsely imprisoned, and you are in prison for years, and all of this because of your brothers. And being taken away from your father and younger brother that you've loved dearly. And then in return, you give them forgiveness. You give them that peace of mind that, you know what, I forgive you. He had that forgiveness in his heart. And we look at Muhammad ﷺ and the same scenario. All of the problems, all of the troubles that all of the people gave him, his main response was always, no, let's be patient with them. He had that love for the people. He wanted them to be guided. And we know the story when he went to this town and he was chased out and he was hurt and he was beat. And then people, they sent their children after him, mocking him and throwing stones and rocks and just want to kick him out. And he's sitting under the tree upset. And at that point, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him the power to destroy all of these people that hurt him. But in return, all what he did was, he said, no, maybe someone else can be, or someone else that will come out of that community that would worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, another example of a superhero that we can always relate to, because we're always presented with trials. We're always presented with people that hurt us. We're always presented with people that want to harm us. But then where is the return? And then Abu Bakr followed, and Umar followed, and Uthman and Ali, and the rest of all the different companions, and the people that followed after that, they all gave us great examples of being a superhero. And all of these people made a change. All those individuals made changes within their communities, within the people that they lived within. So if we want to become a modern day life superhero, we have to start with the verse in Surah Al-Ra'd, verses 11, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. So we go back to square one of trying to change ourselves. We're trying to change what we want from within. So when we go look at trying to understand a personality, because in theory, that's what we want to change, that's what we want to improve on, is our personalities, the bad things that happen around us. So the definition of a personality, it says the personality is the typical pattern of thinking, feeling, and behaviors that make a person unique. So it's the uniqueness of our feelings, the uniqueness of our behavior, and the uniqueness of how we act, of how we do things. So to understand how we can make change, we have to understand, what is it that I want to change? What is it that I want to change personally? Because I can't work, or I can't start into wanting to make an outside change before I make sure that I'm built from within. Ayyub alayhi salam did not become patient overnight. He trained himself day in and day out through all of these little problems that he was going through, and he realized that, what it means to be patient. Yusuf alayhi salam, when he reached that point of forgiveness, to forgive his siblings, I'm sure it took time to have that patience or that forgiveness come out of his heart. So we have to understand what the problems are that we need to fix. And this is all internal. And after we list all of the problems, and we have to be really honest with ourselves of what is it that we want to change. If we start this by thinking that I really don't have much to change, then maybe you're not doing this right. So after we start by listing all of this, now we have to start thinking about how can I make this change? And a lot of times, unfortunately, we think that change happens by asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And thinking that, okay, so if I make dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make that change happen for me, without me taking the step to make it happen. So to make change, we have to realize that it's going to take two things. One is that we reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we reach to that path where we either have to follow the Quran and the Sunnah, because there's always that guidance from Islam. And then we have to actually go and tackle the problem, whether this is a psychological problem that I have to fix, whether I need to reach to a medical professional, whether I need to go talk to a psychiatrist, whatever the case may be, I have to think about it from also that perspective. And we'll talk about examples here in a second. So the first one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah verses 186, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the first step by saying, I'm here for you. You ask, and then I will help you with this process. And then the second example, as we said, is, or the second step, is by seeking that professional help or trying to understand. So when we look at, for example, smoking, a lot of times when we think about the concept of smoking, people say, Ya Allah, I want to quit smoking, help me quit. Ya Allah, smoking, I realize that smoking is bad for my health and I'll quit. And they continue making dua to quit smoking, but they never take the step of trying to understand what is causing me to smoke, right? If I only smoke because it's a matter of a habit, then do I need to change that habit? Do I only smoke when I'm around specific individuals? Do I only smoke because I'm stressed out? Do I smoke because whatever that reason is, right? So we have to take the step into trying to understand what's causing me to smoke, or what's causing me to take that act. Salat al-Fajr is another example. We all want to wake up for Fajr prayers. I don't think any of us, goes to sleep without thinking that, maybe I want to wake up for Fajr. And we all make dua, Ya Rab, help me go wake up for Fajr. Ya Rab, I want to wake up for Fajr. Ya Rab, I want to be able to pray, all 5 daily prayers on time. Sometimes we say, Ya Allah, I really want to pray all 5 daily prayers in a masjid. So we continue making that dua. But what we fail to do is to take the steps to make that dua come true. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help us pray Fajr, or will help us trying to keep shaitan away from us. But if I go to sleep at 1 o'clock in the morning every night, then I'm setting myself up for failure, because physically my body is going to be tired. So going to sleep at 1 is going to make it hard for my body to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning or at 6:30 so I can pray Fajr. If I don't set my alarms to go off at 6 o'clock or 6:30, then you're not going to wake up for Fajr. If waking up for Fajr or waking up from sleep is hard, then set 3 or 4 different alarms. We have to take the initiative to make a change. We have to take the initiative to see what is it that I'm trying to change and what is it that I'm doing to make that change. Dear brothers and sisters, another important change that we have to think about and we have to consider is the structure of our community, is the structure of our families, is the structure of our masajid. We talk to a lot of the parents, and one of the main concerns that they have is that they tell you, well, we want activities for our children at the masjid. We want the masjid to have, different social nights. We want our masjid to have this. We want our masjid to provide this. We want the community service. And they give you a long list of things that they want the masjid to provide. But then us as individuals, we never take the step to make the masjid that place for all of us. You look at all the community centers probably around the US. You look at all the masajid around the US, you'll see that it's a very small individuals or group of people that are trying to make things happen. It wouldn't even probably, come to 5% of the total population that attends that community center or that attends that masjid. So if we really want to make our community be a good, active community, we really have to take the first step into making sure things happen. We really have to volunteer, not only donate, but we have to volunteer our time, and we have to volunteer our energy. I mean, you look at any community, think about the concept or the area that we are in now. You have about 30 to 40 people in this khutbah listening, or in this masjid listening to this khutbah. Now, if every person volunteered 1 to 2 hours a week, just 1 to 2 hours a week, that's 60 hours worth of work. Can you imagine how much work can be done when you have 60 people volunteering? We waste most of our time on the weekends. We have no problem sitting down watching TV for 3 or 4 hours. We'll sit down for 4 hours watching a football game, and we would have no guilt whatsoever in sitting and doing that time. But then when it comes to establishing the facilities that would help our communities grow, that's where we come up with the excuses. And it's almost always the same list of excuses that people have. The center is too far, or the masjid is too far, or the facility is too far. I have kids, I really don't have time. My kids have activities. I have to take my kids to, soccer practice or whatever kind of practice that they have to go to. And then the masjid become the lowest bottom of their priority. And I'm not just talking about Ahsan, I'm not talking about this facility here. This is any masjid that you want to go to. This is any facility that you feel comfortable going with, or anything that's close to your house. We really have to take the initiative to make that change. We can't ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make our communities close. We can't ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make our communities come closer without us taking that initiative. So if you want to make, or if you want to see, if you want to see a place where your children can grow up and have a decent environment, then you really have to take a step into making this happen. Wallahi, I've seen people that will go take their children and volunteer at churches. They'll go have activities with the churches or other non-profit organizations or any other place. But when you tell them come and volunteer your time at the community center where you worship, where you want your family and kids to be, then it's always we're busy. We really have to wake up and take this opportunity to put our foot down and say, you know what? This is the time where I really want to make this place a place for my children. Because 10, 15 years from now, your kids are going to be 15, 16 years old. Or they may be, already out in college. But if we don't set up an environment for them to where after college they can come back and call this place home, then we have failed them. If we don't provide an environment for our young kids to have when they grow up, then we have failed them. So at the end of the day, before you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make or to have a youth center or a good community center, ask yourself, what have you done to make such a place exist?